G'day and welcome back to another Dbz Dokkan battle video. In this video we are going to be taking a look at the Dragon Saga, and as part of the build of the week we will be taking a look at how they do in Esbr and Esbr. Now we're fortunate in the sense that they are able to do their own Esbr, which is the Dragon Saga Esbr. Although this Esbr isn't necessarily the hardest, there are some really strong options that I'd like to point out that make the Shadow Dragons team really strong for the actual Shadow Dragon Saga, and for any SBR actually. So one of the key factors is of course the Omega Shenron. Omega Shenron is a very strong unit who reduces the enemy's attack and defense by 20%, which maybe doesn't sound like a lot, but it basically acts like half a mouse item constantly. So with the mouse item you reduce the attack and defense of the enemy by 40%. Omega Shenron's like basically running half of that, but permanently, which makes him really strong. Not to mention he does a very high amount of damage, and he also lowers their defense, which makes him a pretty solid offensive option for the Shadow Dragon Saga team. But he's not the only one. Alongside him we have some really strong components, a lot of them falling under the Shadow Dragon section. So for example, the other key component is the Hopeless minus energy Omega Shenron, and he's always long been considered a cheat code to a lot of the SBR and SBR content, because he is a reduction of the enemy's attack by 40%, which is pretty nuts. So him and Omega Shenron together will actually reduce the enemy's attack by 60%, which is pretty nuts. If you can imagine, for example, Brody fires a 2 million super attack. Imagine reducing that by 60%. It would drop all the way down to 800,000, which obviously is still a lot, but it's to give you a perspective of the amount that it drops down. So when you have units that are only firing 700k super attacks or 500k super attacks, those super attacks get dramatically nerfed when all these units run together, which is why Omega Shenron, or the two of them, are such a powerful set of units when dealing with the ESBR and SBR. Alongside them we also have the physical Sin Shenron, a unit that raises attack and defense for one turn, causes supreme damage to the enemy and greatly lowers defense. He debuffs all enemies' defense by minus 50%, has attack and defense of 100%, and gets defense and chance of performing a critical hit of 7% per GT boss's category ally on the team. He also performs a guaranteed critical hit with 7 or more key spheres. Sin Shenron is really solid because of his defense debuffing. Alongside Omega Shenron's defense debuffing, you can actually really notice the increased damage that you do to enemies. Now defense debuffing is not nearly as important as attack debuffing, and the main reason for this, or one of the major reasons for this, is that units have generally levels of damage reduction that exist. So enemies that you face in Dokkan have damage reduction, and these levels of damage reduction mean that the defense reduction doesn't necessarily always mean so much. Now in ESBR and SBR there's less damage reduction than say Red Zone or higher levels of the Fighting Legend GT, so or the Fighting Legend Vegeta, which is a comparable event. So it's not necessarily the biggest issue, and it does still help out quite a bit, so it's cool to mention it. In terms of other useful units, we have Oceanus Shenron, a unit that obviously leads the Shadow Dragon Saga as a sub-lead, but has a very interesting passive that's super good for the ESBR setting. She raises defense on her super, but also seals, which gives us additional utility alongside all our debuffing. Not to mention she has the ability to fire multiple super attacks when the enemy is in attack down and defense down. Now if she's staying next to Omega Shenron the entire time, this basically means she will always have an additional super attack. Once the super attack is fired, she will automatically stun her sealed enemy for the rest of the turn, and also will have attacks effective against all types, which means most times she's left in a situation where she's doing pretty decent damage, as well as sealing and stunning the enemy of our choice, which is pretty good when you consider all the factors involved. Last but not least, we have the Texan Shenron. Texan Shenron is incredibly powerful, and he's really strong. More an offensive unit than the rest of them. He just has very high defense and very good offense when he's allowed to pop off. So there's nothing too crazy, but yeah, generally speaking, he looks quite solid. Beyond that, I think in general he looks really good, and the team itself functions exquisitely around the whole stage. Like, they just dominate the whole stage. You don't have to use an item, it's an easy no item run. What could they buff with? Well, we don't really need any more buffs for the ESBR team. Any event that these guys step into, they should in theory dominate. One way you can even further dominate the stage is by having the Super Tech Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. Super Tech Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta debuffs extreme class enemies, so that does help out a little bit, but it's not as good as the debuffing of units like Omega Shenron, because Omega Shenron debuffs all enemies, so regardless of typing. And this level of debuffing is generally speaking a little bit better than, say, other more restrictive levels of debuffing. Other units that also help out and are good, and one we're using to ramp up the team, is the Int LR Shadow Dragon Legion. And this is again another debuffing unit, which provides us with the ability to debuff the unit or enemy, as well as also stun the enemy with their 18 key. But they also gain a variety of debuffs when the enemy is in attack down and defense down, which again is constant in SBR and ESBR settings. So quite frankly, it's just a very strong team that has incredibly good cohesion across the board. We honestly just don't really struggle. So that's obviously really good and helps us out quite a bit. So I would say across the board, definitely a very strong ESBR and SBR team. Just struggles a little bit with damage. We are quite reliant on the Omega Shenrons popping off and doing quite large volumes of damage, which is fine. It's not the end of the world to rely on one unit for damage, especially when you're so secure with the amount of debuffing and control that you can provide in general. So I think that's really good. But yeah, honestly speaking, I do think there is like a little bit of maybe damage concerns, but then again, because of how safe the team is, you can take as long as you want, really. There's very few situations where you'll get caught out, especially if you just stun the appropriate targets, like seal the strength units, and you're basically good to go. So yeah, overall I would say it's a very successful team build and a pretty good run of the team. Honestly, I wouldn't say there's too much to really change, and I think this is pretty much the best version of the ESBR team for Shadow Dragon Saga. Now obviously, you can run a superclass version of the team with a whole bunch of units, and that will help you, and you're welcome to do so. This is just probably the best situation to take a look at some of the extreme class units, since a few more super units are more needed for red zone capable stages. But that's again not to say that that's the only options that they have. It's just more saying that the super side doesn't really have the cool concept structure of all the debuffing that the extreme side does, which I think personally is quite fun and is really cool. So yeah, is there anything they could do? Well, if they bring out another Omega Shenron, he will probably also debuff the enemy, which means this team will effectively win every single ESBR basically that exists. The big thing is they're just not on a lot of categories. So although this team is excellent for ESBR and SBR, it runs into the unfortunate situation where it's just not on enough categories to make that look efficient. But at the end of the day, they do a very good job and I'm very happy with how they do overall. And yeah, for the most part, really exceptional performance. But that's going to be it from me. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know your comments down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. So until then, take care, stay safe, and bye.